Good evening. I'm Cihuapilli Rose Amador.
And I'm Mike Newmoon.
And this is Native Voice TV. Welcome to the show. This evening we have with us Juan Lorea. Welcome, Juan.
My pleasure.
And Juan, you are all the way from Chiapas, Mexico.
That is correct.
And I've heard so much about the indigenous struggles there and so much that's going on there, but I really don't understand everything. So maybe you can explain to us exactly, well, give us some of your tribal affiliation first, and then we'll go into Chiapas.
On my father's side, of course, the Mexica, he came from Mexico, the mountains. And then on my mother's side was the Mescalero Pueblo from New Mexico. Migrant farm workers up into the late 50s, settled in the Salinas Valley, and then, went through the 60s with the Cesar Chavez movement, so we got a little bit of background there. And then the 70s to the Chicano movement, so that's where we got some of the ideology of our struggle. Probably about 12 years ago, I read an article that was written by a young lady out of Berkeley, Cristel Maya Guzman, and I just found it super interesting. It was after the uprising of '94 with the Zapatistas in Chiapas, and how these people were just sick and tired of being sick and tired, the typical indigenous brother and sister story, and how they've been exploited and so on. And we got together with about 3 or 4 other people here out of California and decided to go down there and do some research. While we were there, walking through the parts of the jungle, different parts of the mountains, we're saying, why are these people living in poverty? They're sitting in these coffee patches. And I started doing research, because I knew absolutely nothing about coffee, of this. How can we empower these people? How can we better their situation without violence, and still maintain their dignity as a people and their culture? So after, I say, 2 or 3 years of research, we found coffee to be like the second most traded commodity, only after oil. And we're saying, well, these guys got to come together, and they have to form, just like we did in the 60s with the farm workers, get together and struggle against these big transnational companies who have been exploiting us for many, many, many years, maybe 500 years we could talk about. But not going there with it, just kind of saying, okay, let's get this on a positive note and redirect our energy towards organizing, empower them through training, education. And we took off with a venture that we knew nothing about. It wasn't a business venture. It was more of how do we better the situation here for these people.
How were you received by the people there? I mean, because obviously you're an outsider coming from the United States. And
well, actually, the sister Cristel actually went and lived with the brothers in '94 during the uprising. So we had some names and contacts of people that we'd go to that were saying, okay, these guys are okay. They're not going to do anything to hurt us. And of course, once you're there, how you conduct yourself, with respect, like the sister Roya was talking about earlier, is probably one of the most important things. I mean, you're not going to walk into a big 5-story home or anything, but the little that they got, they're very willing to share it with you. And it's important that you go in there on our level that we understand. So it wasn't difficult for me because we grew up, like I said, working in the fields and understanding that life was a struggle.
what type of, well, there's so many types of exploitation, but it's for the government over there of the people?
Well, I got there after, I arrived there late '97, so there'd been a few years the struggle had rose up and then calmed down, and they had already defined their boundaries, the autonomous pueblos of those indigenous de Chiapas. Where pretty much they said, we know where this is where our people are going to be, and we don't want nothing from you. We don't want nothing from the government, which was great because the government was always trying to offer them some bags of cement or some cinder blocks. Said, no, we're going to become self-sufficient people. And once we got into the communities, some of the things that we identified, like I was saying, was what were their strong points, what were their weaknesses. One of the biggest things that we've all suffered from is the old divide and conquer. And it was hard to get the people together because you're dealing with different dialects, totally different tribes. So we'd go in and we'd talk to them. We'd take a little vinyl chalkboard with and give her a little deal. Or we talked about economics on their level, and how we could fortify their situations, and what we had to offer, and what is organic coffee? Why should you have organic coffee? Well, we talk about number one, being in harmony with with the land, and with the Creator, with Mother Earth, and of course those things they understand perfectly.
Right.
But the certification process to them is confusing because it's like, oh no, I got to go by these rules. I said, all we're going to do is go back to what our grandfather did, or our ancestors. So all of that took years of work. Some of the people we work with, as I mentioned, are the Tzotzil, Celtal, Soque, Chol, Mam. So getting these people all in one room, fortunately, majority of them.
Now, are these little different villages where
different regions of Chiapas?
Okay.
Uh-huh.
How large is Chiapas?
It's one of the biggest states. I guess you could say like a Texas to the United States. Chiapas is to
wow.
Mexico. It's huge. Yeah, and it's all rough terrain. We got the 4x4 vehicles, and we drive down dirt roads sometimes 4 or 5 hours. Sometimes we got to walk, depending on what the situation is, weather conditions, and so on.
Wow. Now, being an affiliate of the National Council of La Raza, a lot of times they have, they'll have vendors there with blouses from Chiapas. Is that something? Is there a garment industry there, or it's normally to help the the indigenous people of Chiapas? I don't know much about it other than what I've heard, over here.
It's a very small percentage, and so our whole theme of empowerment, through social justice, was not to turn anybody away. So anyone comes and, well, I only have a quarter hectare of coffee. It don't matter. Your brother, your sister, you can get in the organization, which is now a legally constituted entity called National Confederation of Mexican Producers.
Wow.
So they all produce coffee on their whatever land they have, and they contribute to the overall business, or how does that work?
What we did was, there's vanilla, there's pepper, there's allspice, papaya, mango, cacao for chocolate. But coffee, we figured if we can get a master's degree with the coffee, then the rest will come naturally. Next year we'll be coming up with certified organic honey for the international market. So the coffee was the key and the strongest and the quickest that we figured that we could empower these people, because it was about economies. If you can't feed your children and you can't educate them, which is one of our key items that we push with our people, is education, especially for the young women, because it's the typical story. By the time the girl's 15, 16 years old, she's married, and she could be a very bright, intelligent person. It could be a doctor, a lawyer, a diplomat, et cetera, et cetera. So, we started pushing all those issues, and then came together. We actually have bylaws that are all written up, so it's really clear what we have to do, what our objectives are. And so the coffee was really rough. It was a really rough ride. In 2004, in February, we legally constituted the Confederation, so it was a legal entity that could export coffee and so on. 3 months later, they stole $50,000 of coffee from us.
Oh.
And so it was just a continuous thing. I had to come back to the States, do fundraising with friends. I stayed here like almost 2 years.
Goodness.
Because it was coffee. We didn't have working capital, so people put their coffee together, and we outsourced the milling of the coffee, the processing, selection, and so on. And people with money took the coffee. I mean, a typical story. And the injustice of all that is, it's been 6 years, and it took me 6 years and 7 attorneys and $20,000. I just got arrest warrants for this person that was responsible for this. So that's the injustice that we talk about in Chiapas for the indigenous people. There is no fair, level playing field, and so we figure we have to create that for ourselves.
Yes.
And number one is being organized.
So now, is it back on stable ground as far as the business goes? And tell me about the business, how that operates, and how people can help by either, I don't know, purchasing the coffee, or do you distribute here? How does that work?
Well, we were fortunate enough to, the Creator put many good people in our paths. We have a group of Canadians, Sean McDonald, Jeff Ferris, Andy Bruce, or some gentlemen that came to step to the plate. In 2004, we were really excited because we had talked to them. Sean had been supportive of our whole movement. He was just like enthralled with the whole thing. Well, I said, I can really do something to help these people. They issued us a letter of credit for coffee. And that's when we put our coffee together, think we'll get our coffee, send it to the port, we'll get paid, and we empowered our people, because people were just elated, thinking we're going to export our coffee. That was like a dream that their father might have had, or their grandfathers might have had, but they never got there. These huge barriers: language, money, lack of information. The New York Board of Trade, what is that? What's a put? What's a call? What's an option? We're like, these guys, the average grade level is like second grade education for these brothers and sisters. So we got together with this group of people from the U.S. and Canada, and in '05 we did our first exportations out of Chiapas. My wife is Tzotzil. So while I was here juggling the fireballs and putting out the fires, the situation that we had, and the Canadians, I went to visit with them and said, what happened? I explained that, what had occurred. They go, yeah, it's always happening to the people at the bottom. I said, well, they're going to support you. And that year in 2005, they took like $750,000 of coffee from our group, which was a huge boost. Sure. And we've had like a 200% growth every year of members. We don't have any money, but the organization continues to grow because of the ideology that we have. And then in '06, we did the same thing. In '07, we exported coffee. And our dream was, our vision as a group was having roasted coffee in the bag and sharing those dividends with the communities. We actually started a scholarship fund. We're working with another organization through Dr. Tamara Brennan of Sexto Sol, which is sextosol.org. She empowers communities by bringing international funds, water programs, sanitation, education, and she's real big too with the young women in the communities. So just forming these alliances was important, so that we would have this, because the government says they have these millions and millions and millions of pesos that are going to the communities, but I can say that that's not true. It's not happening. It's a lot of it is utilized for political reasons, and that's one of our first rules. We refuse to get involved with any political group. Probably goes back to my father's training when I would refuse to salute the flag here. I wouldn't salute the flag, I was just trying to be a hardcore rebel and that type of a deal, right? And so now where we're at now with the same Canadian group that has continued to make us strong for our battles. They funded us about 250,000 pounds of green bean coffee, took it to the roasting facility in Canada, and we've come up with our Mayan Wind Signatures coffees. So now we have a line of roasted coffee in the bag, and through that very same coffee, we're going to be building up funds for our scholarship program for the people in Chiapas. We're also going to be on the United Farm Workers, the Cesar Chavez website. They'll be carrying our coffee. So we're going back to our grassroots community organizations and saying we can help empower and fortify, because we have a struggle here. A struggle. There's no boundaries for our struggle. Our struggle goes to Guatemala. Right. We were working with people in Guatemala, and there's a huge need for this type of education for the people, because there's people that are willing to work so hard, but where do they go and what do they do? And nobody's handing any of that information out or that financing. So we can empower ourselves, and this is one of the things that we identified through the coffee. And then coming to the agreement with all of our representatives in the state of Chiapas, and we're also in Oaxaca, and we're also with Totonacos in Pueblo and Zapotecas out of Oaxaca. We have a huge membership base now.
Now it's called Mayan Winds?
Mayan Winds.
Mayan Winds. And is it distributed here in the United States? Or is that going to be with the UFW?
Our website, we have a www.mayanwinds.com website. But our online store will be up and running probably in 2 days.
Oh,
so they'll be able to order. And it's the top of the line, high mountain grown, Altura, certified organic that you get from all the other companies, which are transnationals. But none of that's going back to the people. There's no dividends being shared with the people. That's not going to happen. So that's what we're doing.
Now this is going to impact the schools, or you said through scholarships, and it's going to help educate?
We don't deal with any of the, say, conventional, like the education system. We would deal directly with our communities.
That's good.
We have a young lady now. This summer, I had a teacher that knows me, a friend of mine, bring me down the report cards. And a young lady, just graduated from high school, and she had straight A's from kindergarten through graduation of high school, or what they call prepa over there. And I was going like, wow, she's a very sharp young lady. He goes, the problem is, her traditional deal, she's just going to be married off and stay up in the mountains, but she wants to pursue her education, and she wants to see what she can return. And she wants to study ecology, or she's studying ecology now. So we talked to people we knew, and we said, okay, let's get her first semester. We got her enrolled at the university in Tuxtla Gutierrez.
Oh, good.
And that's what gave us the idea. I said, hey, there's a lot of, we know that this problem is existing, but this one, we got to do something personally on this one, because it's just a very bright mind. And and we saw the sincerity in the person, a very, very family-oriented and community-based individual. That I know that one day she'll give something back. So I figure we can do that with lots of them. Well, if one of them turns around and does something good for our people, it'd be a good thing.
Oh, that's wonderful. Tell us a little bit more about the coffee. Actually, I've had the coffee and it's really good, so
Okay.
I highly recommend it. But tell our audience more about the coffee.
Well, it's Chiapas is well renowned for its quality as far as the coffee and lots of other products. Was one of the first in the world to be certified organic as far as the coffee goes. The verbiage, you'll see it all over the different websites, you know, high mountain grown Arabica. All of our coffees with our groups are in the high mountains regions, and some are in the jungle, depending on what part of the state that we're in. Our certifications, a lot of people ask us, well, why don't you have the fair trade certification? Well, we're not trying to conform to the norm. You know, we have documents. The Confederation is owned by the farmers. My name's not on their documents, not on their bank accounts. You know, let them call me maestro, teacher, compañero, which means, you know, like your companion in a struggle, la lucha, we call it la lucha, you know. And so we feel that one of our slogans is exactly that: more than fair trade, empowering the people. Mayan wins. That's exactly what we do. It's about empowerment, and it's not about give me your coffee. You know, I'll have this nice limousine in the car in the United States, and you continue to be poor. I've actually been questioned by transnational people, like, why are you down there teaching them about this? How do you check your coffee price, what your coffee is really worth? The indigenous people don't have any idea. They just used to sell their coffee at the door. Now they'll come and ask you, hey, how's NIBOT doing? You know, in their own language. You know, they'll say, well, how's the New York Board of Trade price? What's it looking like today? And then teaching to convert that into dollars per pound to kilos and pesos and so on. You know, it's a whole conversion process. Well, we teach the people. That's empowerment. Because now you have valid information and you know what your product is really worth. I may not be here tomorrow, but at least we taught you that. Nobody can fool you about what your product's worth. Because that's one of the exploitation. You know, they come down to one of these transnational warehouses and the guy tell them, oh, your coffee's worth 300 pesos. Well, he doesn't know how to eat, just selling his coffee. These guys all get together, say the same thing. They don't have anywhere else to sell their coffee. So that's, you know, that was just, and you hear about it. Oh, the Mendoza family, they're just huge. They made so much money on coffee. No, they were just getting over on everybody is really what it was.
Now, what are your plans for expansion? Now, you're going to the internet to sell, and then also you said with the UFW.
Right. We're actually right now through Sexto Sol, who has her own website, and you know she talks about what we're doing with the communities. Tomorrow's been working in Guatemala, El Salvador with the indigenous communities there for about 10 years, and she did a lot of stuff with children that were exposed to, you know, the stuff that was going on down there with the guerrilla groups and so on in the government. And you know, children that saw tragedies, you know, their parents, you know, maybe being executed, that type of thing. So she's a psychologist, so she went down there on a mission and just got involved with these young children. I mean, you know, her life was probably in danger a bunch of times, but she's one of those persons that doesn't think about that. You know, she's just doing her thing. And so we kind of formed our alliance, and so now we're going to start doing the same thing as we're doing in Chiapas, Oaxaca, Pueblo, and Veracruz, for some of the Guatemalan people there, which are Mame is their language they speak there. So we've got about 6 communities that we're going to be getting in contact with there. She just got back from doing a water project or something there.
Wow, you know, that's empowerment. You know, it's good for small communities to learn what empowerment is, but it's a two-way street. Empowerment, you know, because someone like me, for example, might not know about this this product or the struggles that occur down south, and so empowerment, you know, I feel it has to work not only towards the people you're helping, but to get the people to understand why you're helping. You know, so empowerment is really a two-way street. So I'm glad to learn of this, because now I feel empowered to find out more and start to question and spread that word. And I'm glad we brought him here to the show.
Yeah, learn.
And also, how would somebody watching the show be able to become perhaps a vendor? Is there distributor there? Like that's the word I'm looking for.
Actually, we're
What's your brochure?
See that at a powwow. Black medicine.
Yeah, I know.
Black medicine.
Yeah.
Mayan Winds Imports.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I think I did get it at a powwow one time.
Yeah, no, the thing, you know, products like these, you know, that demonstrates the true purpose of unity, of a friendship, family, because, you know, being in the United States of America, united, You know, it's difficult to see where that unity lies, but with the indigenous community, and I say community with the word unity at the end, you know, it's important to know that we learn about things like this, and we learn about the struggles south of where we are. So America could put a border there and say, hey, you know, that fence is right there, but it's hard for me to visualize that fence because I never saw it. So it's good to know that word travels without having to have a checkpoint at the border. There's no checkpoint for a voice. You know, I mean, there's censorship. But
That's another thing we talk about is breaking barriers.
mm-hmm.
And you know, although we didn't put those barriers there, we have very much say-so in any of that. We talk about, you know, and that's another thing we're educating our people is, you know, the legality of the importance of why we have to do things in a legal manner. So that's another education process. We were able to pull about 70 of these men out of their communities with an H-2B visa to an American company out of Idaho.
Really?
Lasted about a month before the guy was gouging them out of their checks, $30. Well, you multiply it by 70 men, it was thousands of dollars a month. Needless to say, we pulled our people, and we have them in the Department of Labor and the judicial system for a lawsuit now. So you know, it's a continuous battle; it never stops.
Right.
So
You
these
have
guys
to look
came
out
here;
for
they
them,
were
too.
happy. We, you know, maybe one day I'll bring the video of these men getting on the bus, leaving Chiapas, and you can see we're going to go legally and work. You know, and these men have a reputation for being very hard workers. The company itself said, "Where are your men from?" And I said, "Chiapas." He goes, "Oh, those are the Indian guys." He goes, "Oh, those guys are really hard workers. Those are some of the best workers I ever had." And so we had to visit them because within the first months, their checks were being gouged. But I guess this gentleman thought we were like recruiters or something like that, and he made a mistake, obviously, because we were on him quick. I mean, within 2 months, he was sued. We had lawyers on him. My brother Fernando, who's also one of our strongest supporters, Fernando Lorea, flew down there, made 2 trips, did video, did a whole fact-finding mission with video, interviewing the forestry, the United States forestry inspectors. And so we went in there and we did our job.
Good.
You know,
That's good.
so
Well, we have a couple more minutes, so what message would you like to leave our audience with?
well, get information off our website, and you know, my email's there. I love to share the information with the people, what we can do, and then we're also working with a young lady she's from the Wall Street tribe here, Amanda Van, and I also did some stuff at DQ a few years ago when I was here with empowerment, and did some coffee shells and stuff. So some of the gentlemen that we talked to, Wendell Yellowbull is another gentleman. We're talking about empowerment, you know, even on our reservations. You know, what about setting up your own roasting place, and instead of using, without mentioning any coffee companies, why don't we have our own coffee in these casinos and create jobs
That
on the
would be
reservations?
ideal.
And that's the stuff that, you know, we can teach. We have all the resources to do that. So, you know, it's just a vast array of things that need to be done, and we probably won't get it done in this lifetime. But
As long as you can get everything in motion, pass on the knowledge to someone else, other generations, so they can keep it going and expand on it.
I think we have good direction.
That's
And
good
we
to hear.
have
That.
people that are willing to work and struggle, which is the most important thing.
Well, that's good. Well, I hope our audience will go online, and we'll have the website there so they can order some coffee. And actually, they could buy it in bulk, right? And
Yeah, we have a deal on there right now. We're ready for just, you know, the biggest detail with all this is small co-ops have tried to come and do this and say, well, we got small amounts of coffee. We're ready for the big picture. We have
That's good.
access to an automated roasting facility, could do 5,000 pounds a day, roasted and packaged, that type of a deal.
Yeah, I would hope that the casinos would jump on that, and you know, the reservations, and
Yeah,
It wouldn't be
definitely.
just about selling; it would be about empowering them with
Sure,
that business.
absolutely.
And about keeping the money within the
communities,
within the
yeah.
It
communities.
says unity within the
Yeah,
community.
because you know we can talk about the business, the Better Business Bureau, but I mean it's all about the Indigenous Business Bureau.
That's right.
Shoot.
And I think that's we have a huge base there within our community.
We do. Well, thank you for coming all the way from
pleasure.
Chiapas to visit us on Native Voice TV, and we wish you a lot of luck, and we'll spread the word too.
All right.
Thank
You
you.
can help us at
Until
home.
next time.
All right.
Thank you for
pleasure.
coming, and thank you for joining us. We'll see you again next Saturday at 4 o'clock, and if you missed the show, you can catch it on Monday
At 8 p.m.
at 8 p.m. We'll see you next week.
Good night.
Good night.